episode 24.
That reminds me of our family watching 24 yesterday with Jack Bauer. Or Kiefer Sutherland as Jack Bauer. That's our family show with Shelby's family.
We hypothetically get together once a week to watch it. And at various points, it's been on Monday nights or Sundays now.
Tuesday was the best.
Tuesdays was good, but...
because we called it 24 Tuesday. Has a nice ring to it.
It does have a good ring. But schedule-wise, it didn't actually work out that well. So now we do it on Sunday afternoons, after lunch, and it's perfect. But we love 24. What season are we on?
I believe we're on season 6.
Man.
Over halfway done. There's 8 regular seasons, plus 2 movies, plus now the new 24, which I will continue to watch.
Oh, of course. Now, some of you may know this about me. I fall asleep in any possible situation or environment, comfortable and even just the slightest bit tired. So yesterday afternoon, 10 minutes into the first episode, I was like, oh no, I'm going to sleep through most of this. And I did, in fact, sleep through most of both of the episodes we watched yesterday. Nate woke me up in good, appropriate times so that I would catch, whatever important thing was happening.
The highlight reel.
The highlight reel, yeah. And by the end of our viewing period, I did feel like I knew most of what had happened. But, man, I wish I didn't do that. I just can't help it.
You've always done it.
I've always done it. I mean, since I was a kid. No matter how interested I am in something.
A little bit of follow-up. We mentioned last time that my brother was going to a Lego First competition in Houston. He did go, but the competition didn't happen. There was some kind of safety threat at the school. I never heard if it was like terrorism or just a gas leak. I don't know what it was, but they ended up canceling it. Unfortunately, they didn't find out till that morning. So everyone was already there and had still paid for hotel rooms, and it was kind of a bummer. But I asked him if he was more relieved or more upset that it didn't happen, and he was definitely upset. He wanted to get over with.
Yeah. And the thing with this was the statewide competition. So, from Nacogdoches to Houston, it's only a couple hours. Not that big of a deal. But I'm sure that there were teams there from El Paso, and El Paso is not a short trip to Houston.
Or Amarillo.
Or wherever else. So, that was a bummer.
Definitely. Anyways, I just wanted to bring that up to close that loop. Shelby and I are big believers in follow-up. If you don't know what that is, it's a common in podcasting that the beginning of your show is kind of following up on topics or any kind of inaccuracies of the previous shows.
Yes, definitely send us all of our inaccuracies.
Our church had what they call renewal this weekend. I think it's fairly common for Nazarene churches to have some sort of big event each year. They used to be called revivals. Maybe they still are. I think that term is kind of loaded. I think that term has kind of been claimed by enough sketchy televangelists that most upstanding churches don't really use it anymore.
Or even it may just carry the idea of spending every day for a month in a hot tent screaming.
Yeah, there was no healings, no tents, no snakes. So, yeah, but it kind of needs a rebrand, so I guess they go with renewal.
Which I think was fitting. It seemed to serve that purpose.
Yeah. I would say one of the central features of the weekend of the topics was grace.
The teacher's series was called Grace, Truth, and the Church Unhindered.
I didn't know there was a name to it. That's good to know.
Mm-hmm.
I really liked what he talked about. And this applies to you, I think, whether or not you're a Christian or you just care about people.
Absolutely.
But he talked a lot about how grace should encompass the entirety of how we interact with someone. That if we ever use, because some Christians will use grace, or I would say quote unquote grace, as a means to kind of be friends with you and then eventually hit you upside the head with their moral beliefs. And he talked about how just crazy that is, because at least in the Bible that I read, that's not how Jesus interacted with people. And so he talked about how, if you ever use grace as a means to get to something else, not the end itself, then it's not really grace. It's just kind of a tool for something else. But I really enjoyed that part.
Yeah, he spoke about grace and truth and how the two interact together. And a lot of times in faith, it's easy for people to separate grace and truth and think of them as two separate things, but the two of them coexist. Like, they are not mutually exclusive. So I think that it was just a really good reminder that grace and truth are not mutually exclusive.
The topic of grace kind of went through the whole weekend for me. We also were in the new members class, and we were kind of meeting all the other people there that are new to the church. And it was crazy to me how many of these people had been terribly hurt by the church. And to be clear, none of these people really felt like God was leaving them out to dry or hurting them directly. It was the church. Someone was kicked out of a church because the pastor's wife was gossiping about them. Someone else, wanted to become a Christian and their pastor just didn't really care. It was crazy, but it was astounding to me that all these people were still in church, because I think if someone representing a religion had done half the things that had been done to these people, I would never have anything to do with that religion.
And so much of what happens to so many people. I mean, this is not uncommon. No.
And I just like to acknowledge that to myself and try to remember that, especially when people have negative views of my religion. I understand them. I don't understand them completely, but I understand that sentiment. For instance, Shelby and I were driving around taking photos on Saturday, and we drove by a country church called Harmonia Baptist Church. And the whole thing, in every direction, as far as you could see, was fenced off. And it wasn't like a white picket fence. It was like a barbed wire, or not barbed wire, but like a metal serious fence. You couldn't climb it in flip-flops if you wanted. And it had a huge sign on the gate that said, "Trespassers will be prosecuted. 24 hours video surveillance." And that, to me, is an example of a church that sucks. I mentioned in the blog post showing the photos, I would much rather go to a church that says trespassers will be welcomed. I mean, it's right in the Lord's Prayer that it says, "Forgive us our trespasses."
That's pretty ironic.
Yeah, so that church sucks. But it just, I don't know, the theme of hearing the pastor talk about it and then seeing the real world examples from the other new members at our church, and then even just driving around completely unrelated and seeing, not even meeting someone from a church, but seeing how unfriendly and unwelcoming a church could be. It's just terrible.
Yeah.
We had a lot of fun driving around. Shelby and I both really love abandoned spaces. I passed a house on the way to Pecan Park on Wednesday that I saw was completely dilapidated and beaten down, so I kind of made a mental note of it, and we stopped back by to take some photos of it. We're looking for more spots like that. I had a friend tell me on Facebook a few other spots that we might want to check out. So we'll be keeping an eye out for that. Once again, if you want to throw us a bone and tell us where all the cool abandoned old buildings are, go to heydeans.com/contact.
There's some cool old looking plants, like lumber plants, that look abandoned, but do have no trespassing signs. I really want to get in there, so.
Well, lots of places have no trespassing signs, even if they're abandoned. But it does certainly raise the risk a lot if they are not abandoned.
Yes, I don't really want to go into an active lumber mill, but an abandoned one, that'd be pretty cool.
We're not condoning trespassing, and we haven't done it.
But one of my favorite parts about driving around on Saturday was just how many dogs we met. These dogs were not attached to any owners. They did not seem to be attached to any of the properties we were visiting. they just kind of found us. And it was incredible. The first dog that approached us was whenever we were at Bethel Baptist Church. And from across the road, here comes this super cute dog, just gleefully running towards us.
That one was more obvious that it did have an owner, because it was in very good condition.
Yes, and it had a collar.
Not good condition. It was well taken care of.
Yes, so this dog had a collar on, and we could see whose house it was coming from. And it was kind of jarring at first, because this dog was just running at us. But it was very clear very quickly that this dog was super friendly. So, of course, I bent down and was petting her and scratching her, and then checked her collar to see if I could find a name. Her name is Peanut. I love her, and I would have taken her home with me, probably. But then somebody else would be losing their super sweet dog named Peanut, and that would make me sad.
I don't like dogs that much, but Peanut was a good dog.
She was a good girl. She was super sweet. I was a little bit offended whenever the church secretary rolled up to the office to do some of her Saturday work and was talking about, oh yeah, this dog, we just call him the church dog because it's been coming over here for years. And my first thought was, this dog has been coming over here for years and you don't know its sex or even its name? It has a name tag. How did this whole congregation not stop to look at the dog's name? Ugh, whatever. I'm going to have grace for these people because their priorities are different than mine. And that's okay.
Besides the dogs, we also were in Kroger shopping, and I saw, at least for me, the craziest thing I've seen in a grocery store.
I saw it first and pointed it out to Nate.
Okay, Shelby saw it first. I saw it too. But Shelby tapped me on the shoulder. She said, "There's a guy over there with 2 birds on his shoulders." This guy he was dressed fairly normally, but he had a t-shirt draped around his shoulders and a bird on each shoulder. I'm not sure if they were parrots or parakeets or they were big. They weren't little.
They were parrot-sized, and they were variations of gray all over with bright red tail feathers. They were very pretty birds. And it was very interesting to think, what is the purpose of that t-shirt? The man had a long sleeve shirt on, so it wasn't necessarily protection from claws. I'm sure that was a little bit, until he turned the corner and I saw the back of the t-shirt draped over his shoulders, which was covered in bird dookie.
Bird crap.
In the grocery store.
I mean, parrots are cool or whatever. They just don't belong in a Kroger.
It was pretty wild. It was difficult not to just stare at him. I wouldn't necessarily want to approach him, but it was difficult not to just very obviously stare.
I have a photo, so I'll put that in the show notes. Well, we are mostly wrapped up here. Shelby, why don't you finish off the day by telling us about your new potential job?
Yes, so a while ago, I started the interviewing process and application process for a company called VIP Kids. This is a company that hires American and English-speaking teachers to teach English online to young Chinese children. They have various levels of English tutoring, starting at no English education. And that is what most of the teachers start out on whenever they come on with the company. And then as you learn more and have more experience with more students, I believe that you can eventually start teaching other classes. A couple days ago, I filmed my demo lesson, which, they provide the lesson plan, and then I just make a video of how I would teach it. And that went fine, so I submitted that, and then I had a live interview today that was a similar experience. I am given the materials, and then I teach the class to a woman on the other end who kind of plays along as the student. On Friday, whenever I filmed my demo, I, got together a setup at home with my big map tapestry and my computer set up and my whiteboard, and it was fine, but I wasn't that happy with it. So today I really went all out, and I hung the tapestry in the corner of the office, and the craziest thing was just my lighting setup. It was really important to have good lighting. They kept saying that, all over the website, have good lighting, have good lighting. And we've got, an overhead light and a window up here, but I just really wanted more. So I went downstairs and I grabbed all of our tall floor lamps and laid them up here. And we'll just have to put a picture in the show notes, because I had one standing up and one leaning over on top of the speaker, sitting on top of the table. It was just a wild time. But I was pretty anxious about that interview, and it's over, and I'll find out in a couple days how it went, but I'm just glad to have that over.
I'm glad for you that it's over. Well, anything else?
Nope.
Great.
See you next
later.
time.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh, I forgot. Okay.
We goofed.
One more time.
Okay. See you next time.